We'll talk about some overarching issues like climate change and how sort of our behavior and our decisions and our work life kind of feeds into that bigger picture. We'll talk about the patterns to details, because permaculture is all about working from patterns that you find in different areas and working down into those and finding the really nitty-gritty details and making a very combined sort of decision in how you change things. We'll talk about change in general and why it's not a bad thing. We'll talk about an introduction to permaculture, so a quick and dirty, what you need to know. And then we'll go into a case study of how we applied the 12 principles to the forward business model. And then we'll kind of tie up around the notion of business as a tool for change. So in a nutshell, there we go. And within the reading I did around Helen and Scott Nearing in their book called Back to the Good Life, I came across this quote, that the most harmonious life is the one in which theory and practice are unified. Now if you think about that for a minute, there's a lot of people out there in the world who are doing the exact opposite of that. They have their own personal beliefs, they have their own religious beliefs, what have you. But they get up day after day after day after day and go to a job that doesn't really serve those beliefs, and in some cases goes against it. So as I'm going through my own work experience, I was kind of really like, yeah, this really is the thing. You really need to align yourself with not only your skills, because you can apply your skills in any number of different ways, but also what you're actually doing in the world and your values. It's not just about skills, it's about values. So this was really, really quite a turning point for me. And this, of course, came with a whole bunch of other questions. What is the meaning of life, essentially, if you're going to boil it down to the simplest terms. So I thought there must be a way to solve the problems we're creating, to live a more enjoyable life and have really enjoyable work, and live in a balanced way in the world we inhabit. So just kind of got thinking more and more along these lines and how I can build something from the ground up. So girl, we got issues. A lot of our emphasis is placed on the macro level. These are the symptoms of what's going on. These are climate change and peak energy and so on. And then once in a while you see people kind of delve down into the systematic problems. That's what's sort of enabling all of these things. Inadequate design, overconsumption of resources, short-term outlook, short political cycles, so on and so forth. But I think with some careful consideration, a lot of this is actually rooted down here on the individual level. It's way too easy for people to pawn off their problems on government, on evil business, on any number of other factors. That other ethnic group, the religious group, look around the world and you'll see examples of each of those. So it got me thinking that, what's fundamentally wrong with the human condition? What is really underlying all these other things? I came up with things like selfishness, greed, laziness, fitting consumerism cycles. All this stuff really comes full circle. We're disconnected from our environment, often isolated from our community, whether we're quite into the online scene or just drink ourselves into oblivion. There's any number of ways we can sort of medicate ourselves and get removed from the people around us. So it kind of boils down to wrong values, lost morals, confusion with the complexity of this modern, developed life that we lead. Well, I came across this really scary quote from James Lovelock, and if you don't know him, he's the originator of the Gaia theory and has done a whole bunch of work around a lot of Earth studies and geology and things. And basically he gets to it and says, look, the real Earth does not need saving. It's been through all sorts of crises and die-offs and meteorites hitting it and so on. The Earth is going to be fine. What we need to save is ourselves, and we can't do that with the way of life that we have now. We can't do that through the overconsumption of resources. We have a limited planet that we're living on. So the way that we're trying to save the planet as we know it is now not possible. We need to have a shift in our view. So working from pattern to detail, I think everything really starts with us, right? It all starts with our behavior, it all starts with our outlook, and ultimately, it's going to end with us. And at the rate we're going, not in a very positive way. So what I would hope to do is, through my work and just through my focus and spreading the word and getting people thinking, is elevate the personal responsibility. Each one of us has choices. Each one of us goes home and does things. Each one of us goes into an office and does things. That has an impact. We need to take some individual initiative and put our foot down and say, no, actually, I'm not going to do that anymore. I don't know exactly what the next step might be, but I'm going to try something different. I'm going to change that thing that I know is wrong. I'm going to, make the world in some way a better place. So business as usual isn't doing us any favors. In fact, it's kind of killing us. So why do people find change so scary? What's the big deal with that? Sort of taught that, it takes a lot of work, and I need to be a little bit uncomfortable for a while, but is it such a bad process? is it really that uncomfortable? In my experience, no. I've actually found it to be quite gratifying. And that's what I kind of hope that other people pick up on. It's really not that scary, and I think it's just more than anything a matter of perception and priorities. With some reflection, I think we're all capable of change. So this whole rest of this presentation is not going to be about gloom and doom. It's not going to be focusing on what's wrong, because there's enough of that already out in the world. It's going to be a case study of proactive action, and kind of using my exploration of myself and my business and how things kind of got rolling to hopefully isolate some of the key characteristics of what I think could be successful. There's certainly a lot more work to do. I'm not professing to have all the answers or anything. This is not exhaustive. Just kind of something to get other people thinking and kind of share from my own point.